we're coming up on the 30-year anniversary of my first album. So it's going to be a new experience listening to that record. We kind of approached it in a different fashion on this one because I thought it would be cool to kind of slow it down and do it slightly different, a little more vibey and stuff like that.
Rock, metal, prog, and everything in between. Welcome to this episode of Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. Don't forget to follow the audio-only Talkin' Rock podcast on all podcast platforms. And now, it's time for today's conversation. Here's Meltdown.
Hey, Dub, how's things, man?
Things are great, man. I'm fired up. Getting ready to kick off this year and hit the road and play some music and rock the people.
Yeah, you have a lot of things coming up. Let's talk about the Experience Hendrix first. That's here, of course, in Detroit at the beautiful Fox Theater. I was just talking with somebody about this the other day. Joe Bonamassa said it's one of the nicest theaters he's ever played.
It is, man. The Fox Theaters historically around the country are some of the most beautiful theaters. And you know what's crazy about that is I believe that most of them were originally built so people could watch movies. They were movie theaters. And but yeah, they're just some of the most incredible venues. Detroit being probably the pinnacle of all of them. But Atlanta one's really good. Yeah, everyone that I've ever played, they're pretty impressive.
Yeah. So you're going to be here, like I said, on March 22nd with that. And what is it like to play with some of these other guitar players that, obviously you're all guitar players, but there's obviously, guys from different genres and different outlooks. Tell me about the dichotomy of playing with some of those guys.
Well, I think it's awesome. I mean, it's a testament to Jimmy and his music and his reach through his music, because you have all these players from different backgrounds, man, and they all kind of play different genres of music. But the one thing we all have in common, regardless of our love of guitar, is the influence that Jimmy had on all of us. And so it just goes to, it's a testament to what he created, and the people who he's still reaching today. And so it's cool, man, watching all these different artists do all these different interpretations of Jimmy's music. And you got shredders, man, like Zakk Wylde, that just gets up there and just destroys the guitar. And then you have like precision players like Eric Johnson, who, that guy, I mean, he does, I can't remember my mind's going blank, but there's this one song that Hendrix did where he played the guitar solo in the studio and then they flipped the tape over backwards and played it. And so the guitar solo actually is, you hear it played backwards, and Eric Johnson is playing it note for note backwards. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's incredible what he does. And then Dweezil Zappa, who, I mean, he goes in and mimics every single sound of the songs that he's playing, like to the T of, the same tones and stuff of what Jimmy did. I mean, it's just really interesting, everybody's different approaches to how they're performing Jimmy's music. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty wild how I never heard that about the Hendrix solo you're talking about. But like, for example, I think in My Life, the solo, which is played on like a mandolin or something, is sped up near the end and stuff like that. And there's all sorts of tricks they would play back in the 60s.
Yeah, well, Jimmy was one of the pioneers of that. I think he also, one song he did it for sure was Castles Made of Sand. So like the guitar solo in Castles Made of Sand is actually a tape playing backwards, and it's why it sounds so trippy. You're like, whoa, what's going on? But if Eric Johnson was going to do Castles Made of Sand, he would literally learn how to play it that way, so that it sounded like the tape was playing backwards, but he's actually playing it like that. It's pretty far out stuff.
I think my friend, you know Bumblefoot?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Bumblefoot told me one time that he learned how to play Eruption forward. Then just for fun, he learned how to play it backwards too.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I totally respect that level of commitment and stuff, but I don't have that kind of time on my hands, man. I got 6 kids and all that kind of stuff. But that's pretty impressive when guys do that. It's like, wow, it's really impressive.
Yeah, how do you balance your time with your family life? Because like you just said, you got 6 kids. You've been with your wife, I think I just saw the other day, 22 years or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like you're constantly churning out stuff, constantly touring, constantly playing with guys.
Yeah, it's basically it's all about balance. So when I hit the road, like we started having kids, and for the first 3 children that were born, I really was focusing on being home, and I would do shows on the weekends and come back home. But after a while, it was like, I got to get out there and I got to like hit the road and like do this the old fashioned way and like really like do the grind and continue to build on what we have here. And so then it became a process of figuring out what the balance is. Like, how long is too long, to be gone from the family, and also how long is too long to be away from work and the fans. And so just trying to balance my commitment. So we've got it pretty well figured out now. I think, 4 weeks, 5 weeks is pushing it, before we need to come back home and reconnect and spend some time with the family. And then whenever they can come out and join me on the road, then obviously we take advantage of that as well. But it's a little more complicated because we have high schoolers, we have, 3 teenagers, and, their school is more important now than when they were just little kids. We could just do whatever we wanted. So, but yeah, I think we're doing a good job of maintaining it.
Yeah, I was just talking with somebody about this yesterday because my kid's pediatrician one time told me years ago, my kids are, you met my son last year, he's 21 now, but it's like he said, you got to take time for yourself, and you do have to take time for yourself, and you do that with your muscle cars and different things,
Yeah.
touring and whatnot. So yeah, there is that balance, I suppose.
Yeah, and when I'm home, it's like I really take a step away from the career side of things as much as possible to like really shift gears into being a husband and a father to my kids. And so I don't sit around the house playing guitar all day every day. I focus on like what do they need from me, and then yeah, I try and squeeze in my car hobby as well, and get some seat time behind the wheel of the cars, or go out and wrench on some of those muscle cars in the garage. But that also takes a backseat to the family. Family's number one for sure.
Yeah, how many muscle cars do you have?
I don't know, man. Off the top of my head, I know I've got about 16 cars right now, but that also includes some of the daily drivers.
Hmm. Yeah. I remember asking James Hetfield that, and he started laughing. He goes, I have no idea.
Yeah, you gotta love guys like that. Like, I don't know the exact number, but I know it's not like Jay Leno level. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, I look at Jay. I went over to Jay's place in Burbank. He's got 2 airplane hangars full of cars,
Yeah.
and it's just like it's like the Peterson Automotive Museum, but bigger. And you're just like, oh my gosh, this guy is living the dream. It's like I'm living my version of the dream, but that guy is living the ultimate dream when it
Yeah.
comes to cars, dude. Unbelievable.
Not only does he have all those muscle cars, but he's got like a history collection of cars, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, he goes after everything. Like nothing is out of reach for him. You know what I mean? And I'm busy working on my modest collection of the cars that really mean something to me. But that guy is just he's got unlimited resources for his car hobby. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, no, down by you, do you know a guy named Willis Johnson?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, I met him through a friend I met down in Nashville one time, and this guy owns this company called Coparts, which is
Oh yeah, I know that. I know the website.
yeah. So, anyways, so he owns that company. This guy's like in his 70s, and he's got like 175 muscle cars down by near where you are.
Well, I got to go meet that guy, man. Yeah, but I'm familiar with the website, and there's a lot of people. I've been hearing little rumors here and there about guys that are massive car collectors, car enthusiasts around middle Tennessee that have these incredible car collections. And I haven't met them yet, but I'm gonna meet that guy.
Yeah, no, Willis is great, and I'll be down there coming up on April 7th. But I see you'll be on tour.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure it out. We'll get together next time you're in town at some point.
Yeah, that's for the Kid Rock Comedy Jam, which we've done a few times. So
Yeah.
so, anyways, yeah. Then you also did you record this Bobby Ross, the Young Fashioned Ways album? Did you record that this past December?
No, it was the year before.
Oh,
So yeah, what happened was he had some things. This is the only real issue when you're collaborating with two solo artists, or people from different bands, is then besides just getting together and actually making the music, it's like, then how do you clear the schedule so that you can actually go out and do some shows together? And so we recorded it, but like after the record was done, he had, a lot of stuff on his schedule. I had a lot of stuff on my schedule. So it wasn't until now that we could really get it together to be able to release the record at a time where he and I could get together and do some shows. So he's going to come out. The record drops, I think it's March 21st.
yeah, that's right. Yep.
And it's, look, the Kenny Wayne Shepherd Band is known for like blues, however you want to call it, blues rock, contemporary blues, whatever. We take blues and we push it into different directions to make it sound fresh and modern and stuff. But this is a straight up blues record with one of the most legendary guys still alive, 92 years old, Bobby Rush. But it's so amazing. Some of it's stripped down acoustic blues and some of it's electric with a band and stuff and everything in between. and we're going to take him out. He and I are going to like open up the show, me and him together, doing songs from this traditional blues record. And then the Kenny Wayne Shepherd band will come out and we'll do the Kenny Wayne Shepherd show.
Oh, I got you. Okay, that's really cool. So, what do you learn from a guy like that? I mean, you've been in this business for probably almost 30 years now, right? I mean, what do you learn from a guy who's been a legend like that for so many decades?
Well, the guy, the thing is, he's been in the music business for decades before I was born, right?
Yeah.
And so you probably remember back in 2007, 2008, I released this project called 10 Days Out Blues from the Back Roads. And it was a documentary film and an album that we did where we loaded up a tour bus with a bunch of recording gear and then another bus with a film crew. And we set out along the south of the US and basically went to guys like him and in their environments. And we set up completely unscripted, unrehearsed. And we would go to these guys and we meet them at their house and play on the front porch or in the backyard or in a neighborhood juke joint or whatever, and just set up and played the blues and made a record and a film doing it with all these legendary guys. And so this is kind of just, somewhat what of an extension of what I've been doing my whole life. My first true love is blues music when it comes to music. Although, I don't do traditional blues all the time, but from time to time over the course of my career, man, I go and I'll do a traditional blues project because I love the genre and I want to expose more people to it. And then this was just a great opportunity to do it with a guy who's a legend, and so I trust his talent and my talent coming together, and I knew something special would come from it. And this album is definitely something special.
And I was reading about it, and it was kind of interesting because the blues really has no like age limit. Where some stuff like my dad will never listen to Nine Inch Nails.
All right.
But we could both probably get into the blues or whatever. It's kind of weird how there's not many music genres that are kind of like that.
Well, I know, and that's one of the things I've really appreciated about our shows is like you can see entire families coming, multiple generations of family members coming to see us play. Because our music has been, first of all, it's timeless, it's not trendy, and I never wanted to be a pop star because then you're just chasing the trend. I wanted to write songs that people could listen to for decades, and we're coming up on the 30-year anniversary of my first album. So it kind of like it brings all generations together. Now some people dismiss it, they hear blues and like, oh, it's old people music, but if you play them the right artists, you play them like a Kenny Wayne Shepherd or a Samantha Fish or Marcus King or whoever, Joe Bonamassa, like now we're becoming the older generation, Joe and I at least, but we were always the young bloods, and so but we bring a different energy to it, and so you play them some of that younger stuff, and then they go, oh yeah, I can relate to this, rather than just dismiss it as old people music.
It's hard to think that your debut record came out 30 years ago. I've been here in Detroit for almost 30 years. That's insane.
I know. So I tell you what, so we're going to end this year with the 30th anniversary of Ledbetter Heights, which is my debut record. And we have been recording a brand new version of that record. So, for the 25th anniversary of Trouble Is, the second album, we re-recorded that record and we kind of recreated that album. It sounds incredibly similar. And we had all the same people almost playing on that record as the original. But for this one, there was no way we could have recreated it because some of the people that played on that record and performed on it have passed away already. So it was never going to sound exactly the same. So it kind of gave me some creative liberties that I could take and maybe reimagine some of the songs, knowing that no matter how hard we tried, it would sound exactly the same. So when you hear the 30th anniversary of Ledbetter Heights album that's going to come out next year, it's going to be a new experience listening to that record, but it's going to be songs that are familiar to you because some people have been listening to them for 30 years. And then we plan on doing a tour, hopefully, like we did with Trouble Is, where we go and we play the whole album in its entirety live in concert for the very first time ever.
Wow. So you have any collaborations on their re-recording, or is it just going to be you and just guys?
Well, no, there's no like guest artist really per se, but it's like, for example, like the lead singer on the first album was Corey Sterling. And then we parted ways, and then that's when Noah Hunt joined the band for the second album. So on this one, it's Noah singing, most of the songs that Corey sang. So it's a completely different voice. And so it's going to sound different, although Noah's voice is incredible. And he's been singing a lot of those songs now for 27 years in my band. But it was never going to sound exactly the same. And, we have Chris Layton played on the original, right? But different bass player. Now it's Kevin McCormick and just some other components that like fundamentally are just going to change the sound of it. So there's certain songs though that we kind of like totally reimagined. Like there's a song called Riverside that I sang lead vocals on. It's the only song I sang lead vocals on my first record. And we kind of approached it in a different fashion on this one because I thought it would be cool to kind of slow it down and do it slightly different, a little more vibey and stuff like that.
Now, how come you only sang one song on the debut record?
Because I was scared to sing.
Okay.
And also because when I sang, I sounded like a kid. I mean, I was a kid, right? Yeah. I was 17 when I recorded the first album. But when I played guitar, my guitar playing sounded beyond my age. But when I opened my mouth, I sounded like a kid. And that wasn't the voice that I heard from my music. I wanted to open my mouth and hear Muddy Waters jumping out of my mouth, but that was not what was happening. And so I had standards, and since my voice didn't meet those standards at the time, I didn't have a problem finding somebody else to do the job. And it kind of remained that way until I got up to my fourth album. And that's when I got comfortable started to get comfortable with the sound of my voice and figuring out, what I'm capable of doing and working within those parameters, and then I've been singing more and more ever since then over the years. And now it's evolved where we basically have two lead singers in the band. We have Noah Hunt still with us, and then, myself singing lead vocals. And we do about half on the last several albums. It's been about 50-50. He sings half and I sing half. And then live, we support each other with that.
Now you just mentioned something when we were talking. You said, my band and stuff. I don't know if you think about this or not, or maybe you do, but it's like you are a brand. Do you ever think about that? Because it's like, you got, obviously there's guitar players, stuff like that, but you got your, your car side. You've become like the brand. You got the Experience Hendrix coming up. You got this new record coming up. You got a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember, like, they call it the music business because it is a business.
Right.
And, we all start off just wanting to play music and wanting to create music. And, the music is an inconvenience. And a lot of artists don't ever want to get mixed up in that. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of artists get taken advantage of, But at a certain point, it's like you got to realize, like, this is your business, your livelihood, your brand, your face, your name. And you got to take it seriously. And so, I haven't exploited it as much as like I probably could, like some people. I mean, I don't have a million different signature pieces. Like I don't have 20 different signature guitars and 5 different signature effects pedals and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know. I've done signature guitars and things like that, but like there's probably so much more that could be done. But I've tried to be very selective in what I do, and what I put my name on and stuff. But yeah, you got to take it seriously, and you got to establish and maintain a value for your brand as well. And make sure that you don't let anybody undermine that.
So the other day was Valentine's Day. I saw you posting pictures with your wife, and you even posted some videos from some interviews you guys did in some podcasts. When I got married 25 years ago, my father-in-law gave me this simple advice: don't hurt my little girl. What advice did your father-in-law give you?
Well, the one thing that I remember, we had a long talk actually right the night before I proposed to Hannah, and he gave me a lot of really great advice. But one thing that he really tried to impart to me, which I think is valuable information, is to try not to go to bed angry. Mm-hmm. It's like, just try to, like, what if there's an issue, try and get it resolved before you go to bed. Don't let it drag into the next day. And not everybody's able to do that all the time, but I do think that's a good goal to have for sure. And knowing that everybody's going to have some issues, there's going to be disagreements, but to try and like address it in the moment, deal with it, and not let it just continue to spill over into the next day and maybe the next day after that, if possible.
Yeah, was that?
You're not always guaranteed the next day either, so it'd be nice to go to bed happy with each other.
Yeah, right. Was he an intimidating guy when you went up to him and told him you wanted to marry his daughter?
Well, Hannah and I had been dating for 2 years before I proposed to her.
Gotcha.
And then we were together almost another 2 years before we got married. I think we were trying, even though we were both still relatively young, we weren't trying to like rush into anything, and we were trying to put as many core components in place to build a good solid foundation, you know, as solid of a foundation as possible. But I think it was just like your typical thing. Like everybody knew that I was going to propose to her, and we actually were on this trip in Italy, and so Hannah's parents knew that I was going to propose to her, and Hannah's mom kept trying to get Mel and I to talk to one another, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but like we never could seem to get in the room together at the same time. I think it was like it was awkward for me and it was awkward for him. And then finally it was like the night before, and Hannah's mom knew that he and I hadn't talked yet. And so she caught both of us and she goes, "You and you upstairs now." And so then we were forced to sit down with each other, and we went up on this rooftop patio and just sat in the dark and had this really nice conversation for, I don't even know how long it lasts, but it was in depth and it was significant to me, I think both to me and to him, and I appreciated it very much.
Yeah, I think that I was I my in-laws live about 40 minutes away, so I was never there by myself. So I think I called them on the phone or something like
Yeah.
that. You know,
Well,
but
I think it's a good tradition, you know. I think it's appropriate, you know, especially if you're going to be joining somebody's family and taking on the responsibility of marrying someone's child, that you have that conversation. You know, you owe it to the family, you know, that level of respect.
yeah, I agree 100%. I've been a fan of your father-in-law since I saw the first Mad Max when I was just a kid on VCR or something like that, whatever it was, way back in the day.
Yeah, he's pretty incredible person. I mean, he's talented beyond measure, and he's always been a really great father-in-law to me, and he's been a great grandfather to my children. And but you know what's interesting is like everybody's like, "Oh, what was it like? You know, were you nervous when you first met him?" And blah blah. Blah. But frankly, I grew up around famous people. I mean, like when I was a kid, my dad was in radio, and he was, you know, program director, GM. Like we got tickets and backstage passes to every show that came through town. So I was backstage meeting some of the most famous people in music on a regular basis, and just like being in the presence of all these superstars. And I figured out pretty early on that like they're just people. They're just talented people. They're just more well known than other people, but they're still just people at the end of the day. And so I think that probably helped prepare me, you know, to not be quite so shocked when I was in the presence of, you know, one of the greatest actors of all time, for sure.
Yeah, I think people probably say that because I guess looking from the outside looking in, you know, he can probably be an intimidating guy if you don't know him. I'd have never met him, so I can't say that. But you know, some of the stuff he's done on their TVs, you know, the roles he's played in different things like that is a lot of what only people know or see.
Well, yeah, but it's not even that. I mean, yes, that can play into it, but just the fame. I mean, like, you know, A-list celebrity type fame when you're just a you know, a 9 to 5 kind of person, and you live a humble kind of life, you know, and then you come across somebody that's a household name,
Yeah.
you're just like, whoa, it can be a real shock to the system, you know. And so for a lot of people, I think that might be a intimidating experience, you know, meeting somebody like that, for sure. I just was conditioned to a lot of it because of my dad being in radio, and then my music career starting off so early. I mean, I was opening up playing with the Rolling Stones and the Eagles and BB King and household names, right? When I was 18 years old, 15, 16, 17, 18. And so I think that just kind of helped condition me to all of that.
Yeah, that's so cool. Some of those memories from back in the day like that. This summer, I don't know what your tour schedule is. I don't know when this tour with Bobby Rush goes until, but we got to get you out here for this Dream Cruise.
Oh yeah, man. Well, so I've been actually talking to the Dodge guys about maybe trying to show up for their Roadkill
Oh,
nights.
Talkin Nights is fantastic. A lot of fun.
Yeah, so I've been wanting to make both events. I've not been able to make the Woodward Dream Cruise, and I've not been able to make Roadkill Nights because it's usually in August,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, right at the tail end of the summer touring season, and I'm always like on the road, and so, you know, I got to go where the work takes me. But I think I'm talking with the Dodge guys, very preliminary discussions right now, and hopefully I can make it to town for their Roadkill Nights event, which should be right around that time. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Last year, you know, Goldberg shows up. You know, he's a big Mopar guy and stuff like that. And so
Yep.
It was a lot of fun. They take this front stretch of this road course and they just close it all off, obviously, and they just drag race on it. But it's
Yeah, man. I'm all about it, bro.
listen. Next time I get down to Nashville or whatever, we'll have to get you hooked up with Willis Johnson so you can see his cars and stuff. He's a super good guy to know and a good guy to talk to and experience. He's and man, his car collection's crazy.
I'm sure it is, and I would love to meet him, and I would love to see it. So let's make that happen.